Ben Shapiro is someone who constantly criticizes the left for having false victim complexes. Although I will explain that he's not the only one who does this. It's pretty much, it's a very big portion of the right wing. It's almost like one of their, talking points is, they're always trying to be the victims. They're always trying to be victims, and they always want to be victims, and they're setting up these false victim complexes, even though they have the fake war on Christmas and all of this other shit. But you sort of get the point. Now, with Trump visiting the UK, which was a whole sort of debacle in and of itself, here's something that Ben Shapiro stated. He stated, undermining Theresa May even as Labour moves towards power, led by insane anti-Semitic Soviet former asset Jeremy Corbyn, is classic bad Trump. So Ben Shapiro, this isn't the main point of what I'm trying to say, but Ben Shapiro was blaming Trump for undermining Theresa May. But I was looking at the responses, and it seems like a lot of his fans are pissed at him because they're like, hey, it's not Trump's fault. And so it seems like there's some disagreement among himself and his fans, which I just thought I'd throw that in there. But I wanted to address this anti-Semitic, I guess I'm going to call it a smear because that's what it's, a lie. He's not anti-Semitic by any shape or form. Now, the media did get really desperate to attack Jeremy Corbyn because he was performing very well. And he was, the reason why Labour made any gains in the first place. And so they came up with this fake smear of he's an anti-Semite. Now, Jeremy Corbyn is fervently pro-Palestine. And as we know, Ben Shapiro is fervently pro-Israeli. Very much so. He even spent a bunch of time in this recent time where there were over 50 innocent Palestinians killed, unarmed Palestinians, and all the, thousands wounded. He literally came on the air and just started apologizing for Israel, which is every single thing that he does. You know what I mean? So that really is what it is. He's made some really, really questionable comments about that in the past, by the way. Apparently, he's walked back some of them due to their unrealisticness. For example, he advocated for ethnic cleansing, saying we need to get all Palestinians out of Israel proper, which is pretty fucking insane because that would require violence and all different kinds of terrible things to be able to do that. But I also want to mention the context of Ben Shapiro using this slur or not the context, but the history, because I've made a couple videos explaining that Ben Shapiro, while claiming that everyone else has a victim complex, puts one up for himself of anti-Semite anytime he's in an argument. So I'll give you some examples. So for example, he called anyone who supported or voted for Donald Trump, he called them a gino. Now what's a gino? Jino. That means Jew in name only. So what it's saying is you're not really Jewish. You're just Jewish because you call yourself Jewish. You're not really Jewish. You're just Jewish by name. And that's something that's used by a lot of people. There was Rhino Care when there was this, which means, Republican in name only. So that's something that's used quite often. But probably the most embarrassing one, I repeat, the most embarrassing one, was he got into like this Twitter scuffle with Patton Oswalt. And Patton Oswalt brought up Irving Kristol because Patton Oswalt called Ben Shapiro a neocon, which is what he is. And Ben Shapiro responds saying, oh, well, you just mentioned Irving Kristol because we're both Jewish. And he's like, no, I mentioned them. Ben Shapiro went on to call him an anti-Semite. But Patton Oswalt goes, no, the reason I mentioned Irving Kristol was because he's the godfather of neoconservatism. So he's clearly just spamming the anti-Semite card because he's trying to create this false victim complex, which is unbelievably embarrassing. So, no, Jeremy Corbyn's not an anti-Semite. Being pro-Palestine doesn't make you an anti-Semite. And the fact that he uses this so much is extremely... And by the way, I want to mention something interesting because in 2008, 70% of Jews voted for Obama. So... of 70% of the Jewish people who voted in that 2008 election, he's calling Jews in name only. So that's fucking insane.